Miami International Airport on a bustling Friday afternoon was a whirlwind of activity. The terminal echoed with the rhythmic clatter of luggage wheels, the chatter of travelers in English, Spanish, and Creole, and the incessant drone of flight announcements. The air carried the mingled scents of Cuban coffee, perfume, and fried empanadas from nearby food courts. Overhead, digital screens flickered with updates on flights to Havana, New York, and Sao Paulo, their green and red letters a constant reminder of the world in motion. At Gate C9, where Coastal Skies Flight 452 was preparing to board for Washington, D.C., passengers milled about, some checking their phones, others sipping coffee, all caught in the restless rhythm of travel. Among them stood Dr. Isabella Torres, a woman in her late 40s, exuding quiet confidence and intellectual poise. She was returning home after a grueling 4-day legal symposium in Miami, where she had delivered a keynote address on federal judicial reform. Dressed in a tailored navy blazer, cream blouse, and black slacks, her attire was professional yet practical for a long flight. Her low-heeled shoes clicked softly on the marble floor, and a simple silver watch adorned her wrist. A sleek black leather briefcase rested beside her carry-on, containing notes from the symposium and her tablet, which she skimmed while waiting in the priority boarding line for business class. Dr. Torres traveled alone, preferring discretion over the entourage that her position could have warranted. Her dark hair was pulled into a neat bun, and her brown eyes scanned her documents with focus, betraying a hint of fatigue but no impatience. Not far from her, in the same line, stood Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore, a wealthy white woman in her early 60s, radiating irritation. Clad in a designer silk dress, with gold jewelry glinting at her neck and wrists, she was the picture of privilege. Her meticulously styled blonde hair framed a face that was perpetually sour. Her lips pursed as she glanced at her diamond-encrusted watch and huffed. Whitmore's eyes roamed the crowd with thinly veiled contempt, lingering on Dr. Torres with a scowl. In her narrow worldview, a Latina woman in the priority line business class no less was an anomaly, an affront to her sense of entitlement. She muttered under her breath, loud enough for nearby passengers to catch fragments of her complaints about these people and standards slipping. Her words dripped with disdain, sowing discomfort among those who overheard. Unwilling to let her irritation fester in silence, Whitmore strode to the gate agent's desk, her heels clicking with purpose. Her tone was a blend of saccharine charm and imperious demand. "Excuse me," she said, leaning in. "Why am I stuck waiting with certain people?" She tilted her head toward Dr. Torres, her voice carrying. "That woman over there. She's been eyeing my handbag. I don't feel safe with her on my flight. You need to check her ticket. She doesn't belong in business class. Probably used fake documents or something." The gate agent, a young man named Carlos, flushed with embarrassment, stammering as he tried to explain that Dr. Torres was a valid priority passenger. Whitmore waved him off, her voice rising, drawing curious glances from the crowd. Her outburst caught the attention of two airport police officers patrolling nearby, Officer Mark Donovan and Officer Ryan Kessler. Donovan, a grizzled veteran with a weathered face and a predisposition to snap judgments, sized up the scene with a skeptical eye. Kessler, younger and more volatile, followed his partner's lead, his posture tense with eagerness to act. Whitmore seized the opportunity, turning to the officers with a theatrical sigh of relief. "Officers, thank goodness you're here," she said, her voice now plaintive. "That Latina woman," she pointed at Dr. Torres, who stood calmly observing. "She's acting suspicious. She's been staring at my belongings, making me nervous. I don't trust her on this flight. You need to do something, check her thoroughly. We can't have people like her causing trouble." Donovan, whose biases aligned too easily with Whitmore's accusations, nodded without hesitation. Kessler, itching to assert authority, cracked his knuckles and fixed Dr. Torres with a hostile glare. They saw an opportunity to flex their power, dismissing the need for evidence in favor of Whitmore's word. The officers approached Dr. Torres with deliberate strides, their heavy boots echoing on the floor. The crowd parted, some passengers whispering, others filming discreetly with their phones. "Ma'am," Donovan began, his tone clipped and laced with condescension. "Step out of line. We need to speak with you privately." Dr. Torres, though startled by the interruption, maintained her composure. She glanced at Whitmore, who stood smirking with arms crossed, then back at the officers. With a measured breath, she stepped aside, her briefcase still at her side. "What's this about, officers?" she asked, her voice calm but firm, her eyes steady. "We've had a complaint," Donovan said, parroting Whitmore's words. "You're allegedly behaving suspiciously and may pose a risk to flight security. Show us your ID and boarding pass now." Dr. Torres opened her briefcase, retrieving her driver's license and business class boarding pass with deliberate care. "Here are my documents," she said, handing them over. "They're in order. I'd like to know the specific nature of this suspicious behavior and who made the complaint. I've done nothing but stand in line, like everyone else." Kessler, impatient and bristling at her composure, snapped, "Don't get smart with us. Just do what we say. Your attitude's already a problem." Donovan, meanwhile, scrutinized her ID, his eyes flicking between the photo and her face. "Isabella Torres," he muttered, then smirked at the boarding pass. "Business class, huh? How'd you swing that? What do you do? This ticket really yours?" The insinuation, tinged with racial and class prejudice, stung, but Dr. Torres kept her anger in check. "Your questions are irrelevant and discriminatory," she said, her voice rising slightly but remaining controlled. "You're targeting me based on someone else's baseless accusations, not evidence. I'm a U.S. citizen, a lawful passenger, and I demand to be treated with respect. Return my documents, and I want your names and badge numbers." Her defiance, articulate, unwavering, shattered the officer's expectation of compliance. Donovan's face reddened, his authority challenged. "You don't tell us what to do," he barked. Kessler, more volatile, stepped closer, his voice booming. "Who do you think you are, talking back to us? You're just another loudmouth trying to play the victim." His words veered into overt prejudice, laced with slurs about her kind, that echoed through the gate area, drawing gasps from the crowd. The situation spiraled. Passengers watched, some horrified, others too intimidated to intervene. The gate agent, Carlos, tried to step in, but Kessler waved him away. Whitmore, standing nearby, beamed with satisfaction, her provocation bearing fruit. Dr. Torres, though shaken by the escalating hostility, stood her ground. "Your actions are illegal and will have consequences," she warned, her voice cutting through the tension. "You're abusing your authority, and I won't stand for it." Donovan's patience snapped. "That's it. You're under arrest," he bellowed, fabricating charges on the spot. "Disturbing the peace, resisting officers, and threatening flight safety." Kessler, eager to act, lunged forward, grabbing Dr. Torres' arm with unnecessary force. She winced but didn't resist physically, knowing it would only escalate matters. "You have no grounds for this," she protested, her voice ringing out. "Release me now." Kessler ignored her, yanking her arms behind her back and snapping handcuffs onto her wrists. The cold metal bit into her skin, the pain matched only by the humiliation of being restrained in front of hundreds of onlookers. The crowd at gate C9 fell silent, some recording the scene, others whispering in disbelief. Whitmore's smirk widened, her goal achieved. Donovan stood smugly, muttering insults under his breath, while Kessler shoved Dr. Torres forward, barking, "Move!" They marched her through the bustling terminal, a public spectacle of shame. Dr. Torres kept her head high, her posture defiant despite the cuffs. Her mind raced, cataloging every detail, the officers' names, Whitmore's role, the witnesses. She felt the weight of countless eyes, some sympathetic, others judgmental, but she refused to let the moment break her. The trio reached the airport police station, a cramped office tucked behind a security checkpoint. Inside, a duty officer, Officer Luis Morales, sat at a desk, looking weary from the day's chaos. Donovan and Kessler recounted their version of events, painting Dr. Torres as a disruptive, non-compliant passenger who posed a threat. They handed over her ID and boarding pass, their voices dripping with contempt. Morales began entering her information into the system, asking routine questions. "Occupation?" he said, glancing up. Dr. Torres straightened, her gaze sweeping over Donovan and Kessler, who stood smirking, expecting a mundane answer. Her voice was steady, resonant with authority. "I am Chief Judge Isabella Torres of the United States Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit." The room froze. Morales' pen clattered to the desk, his eyes widening as he processed her words. Chief Judge of the 11th Circuit, one of the most powerful judicial figures in the Southeast, with authority over federal cases in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. He glanced at her ID, then back at her, sweat beading on his forehead. Donovan and Kessler's smug expressions vanished, replaced by sheer terror. Their faces drained of color, their bodies trembling as the gravity of their mistake sank in. They had harassed, insulted, and handcuffed a federal judge, a woman with the power to reshape their futures with a single ruling. Donovan staggered, his back hitting the wall. Chief Judge?" he stammered, his voice barely audible. We didn't know. Oh God, we're so sorry. This was a mistake. A horrible mistake." Kessler, shaking uncontrollably, dropped to his knees. "Please, Your Honor, we were just doing our job. That woman, Whitmore, she told us you were dangerous. Please don't ruin us. I've got a family." Dr. Torres remained unmoved, her expression a mask of controlled fury. "Your apologies mean nothing," she said coldly. "You acted on prejudice, not evidence. You humiliated me, violated my rights, and abused your power. You will face the consequences." Turning to Morales, she continued, "Remove these handcuffs immediately, then contact your police chief, the U.S. Marshal Service, and the chief clerk of the 11th Circuit. I want them here now." Morales, fumbling with the keys, unlocked the cuffs, revealing red marks on her wrists. He scrambled to make the calls, his hands shaking. Within minutes, the airport police chief, Michael Vargas, arrived with his deputy, followed by U.S. Marshals and senior staff from the 11th Circuit. The small station became a hub of crisis, the air thick with tension. Vargas, his face ashen, apologized profusely to Dr. Torres, promising a thorough investigation. An emergency meeting ensued, with Dr. Torres detailing the incident, from Whitmore's instigation to the officer's slurs and unlawful arrest. Vargas acted swiftly. Donovan and Kessler were stripped of their duties, their badges and weapons confiscated pending an FBI investigation. Whitmore, identified via flight records, was detained before boarding and questioned about her false accusations. Faced with video evidence and witness statements, she crumbled, her arrogance replaced by fear as she faced potential charges for slander and inciting discrimination. The investigation, conducted by the FBI's Civil Rights Division and the airport's Internal Affairs, was relentless. Security footage, body cam recordings, and passenger testimonies confirmed the officer's racial profiling and abuse of power. Whitmore's role as the catalyst was undeniable. Donovan and Kessler were permanently dismissed from the Miami Airport Police and faced federal charges, including civil rights violations and unlawful detention. In a high-profile trial, they were convicted and sentenced to 4 years in federal prison, a stark warning against abuse of authority. Whitmore, to avoid a criminal trial, pleaded guilty to a lesser charge and paid a $600,000 fine, a blow to her wealth and reputation. Dr. Torres, though scarred by the ordeal, channeled her experience into advocacy, pushing for mandatory bias training for airport police and stricter protocols for handling passenger complaints. Her resilience and authority cemented her legacy as a champion of justice, undeterred by the prejudice she faced. The incident at Miami International Airport became a national story, sparking debates about racism, power, and accountability. It was a painful reminder of the work still needed to dismantle bias, but also a testament to the power of truth and justice to prevail.